welcome to our session with a focus on retail. And today I have with me Brian and Jeroen, two experts in this field. And it would be great if Jeroen and Brian, if you could introduce yourselves to our participants. And the floor is yours.
Cool.
Yeah,
Brian, go ahead.
Hi everybody, my name is Brian Aherne. I work in the retail division of Unilever. I'll talk a little bit more on that when I start my presentation.
Cool. My name is Jeroen, founder of T6A, the customer experience agency. I will guide you through a few minutes of introduction while I'll hand over to Brian. Cool. The magic question, obviously, that isn't a question if you have a few hundred people in the room because they can actually see it, but can you see my screen?
Yes.
That's great. So again, very happy to be here. Great that Brian is here as well. Happy to have you here, although we have some different timelines here. So I can imagine from the Amsterdam time where I am today, 5 p.m. is not the best production time in terms of facing content, but while we have good content, let's move it from here. A couple of things. As T6A, I will share a few minutes on that later on. We're a content partner of Keynotion. We organize together a lot of webinars there as well. Why we do that? Great question. Although I asked it myself, we all know that there are a lot of seminars and presentations out there, but we also know that 70–80% of them are not really valuable in terms of what we actually could use from tomorrow. So that's basically our, let's say, guard from there. Before we start and dive into beautiful slides, let's warm up in the chat a little bit with one question. And that question is, what is one word that comes to mind if you think about weathering the pandemic regards to customer experience? Try to make it one word. Just wait a few seconds to see what your first thoughts are. Cool stuff. Feel free to add on that one later on as well. So a couple of things. One main question we always ask our clients, but also just companies in general: does a customer create the journey, or does the journey create the customer? That sounds like a very impactful question, but we really believe that that's one question which is really relevant, especially now during the whole COVID-19, right? Because are we influencing what our consumers or customers are doing? Are we happy with the process inside out, or is it more sort of a whatever facilitation we bring to them? And that's basically what we do with the customer experience agency. Rather than taking procedures and briefings for an answer, we really look always to what consumers are actually want to do, whether that's B2B, B2C. We really look around that needs of people who are actually interacting with them. Quick introduction. So I'm the co-founder of the customer experience agency. I was literally born in the store, so I really like the store as well. So for the last couple of years, I was customer experience director for Dollar Shave Club, where I actually don't have any stores, which is quite interesting for me, having a lot of stores and interacting, possibilities to interact with people. A few things that we're working on, and is obviously these kind of three. And the first part is really interesting for me, right? Revenue, because that was always the key thing. Yes, we would love to talk about customer experience. Yes, it's really important for us what clients say, but at the end, it's all about revenue. And that's my biggest, let's say, mission in terms of having conversations with board members or managers or directors or whatsoever. It's like, okay, the big focus there is on customer experience, but we still measure on revenue. So the question would be, what would be a very good KPI in terms of consumers of customers? And then always it's like, yeah, well, we have CSAT, we have NPS. It's all these like, quite defensive KPIs. But if we say that consumers are so important, how could we measure that? I mean, that's quite a journey on its own, right? It's all about connecting the goals, partner satisfaction, and talk about that in a minute. So again, no one knows exactly what's going to happen, right? I saw this article this morning about a professor. He said, you know what? The next 3 years of transformation was actually happen in the next 3 months. was quite mind-blowing. Was it, let's say, a poet? No, but it was really fun for me to say, okay, yeah, that's really the thing, right? One thing is for sure, continuing with business as usual is a losing formula, right? Companies must embrace change driven by COVID-19. Customer experience thinking for companies has moved this into focus, and that's a good thing, right? If you have that flag there as well. One thing we know, constraints foster creativity. So if we want it or not, it all drives us into new things, not just for ourselves, but also for the companies there as well. Just a few highlights there, which we see as, which is quite interesting. So people are going to binge burgers. People, had to cook for the last 8 weeks for their families, for themselves. They're quite a bit of a, bored by doing that. So they absolutely want to crave for those moments they had before. Very interesting to see. A lot of insights are pointing that to us. Another part is the queuing experience. Right? I'm just wondering whether next year there will be a queuing experience agency. I'm not going to dive into that, but one thing for another, the queuing experience will be the reality, right? Yesterday I went for a haircut, although you might not can see it, but it was like, yeah, we have to make an appointment. So I was literally made an appointment, walked into that haircut shop. I was like, sorry, I had a reservation. It literally feels like I was walking into a food restaurant or whatsoever. So it was completely, for me, experience a completely different experience where I normally just walk in, wait till I get a haircut. Anyway, that's not even talking about digital, but there are a lot of opportunities there to just, elevate that experience as well. And if we talk about that, we also talk about delivery. And a message that came across yesterday on LinkedIn was this one, if we talk about delivery, that Aldi is going to partner with Deliveroo for grocery home delivery. We all know we have this big giants like Amazon, like Walmart, we're literally, trying to get the biggest margin, the biggest bucket in terms of market share. And then I was like, oh, cool. Aldi is never going to able to level that up. So they literally partner up with Deliveroo. Very interesting from my opinion. And then today, literally last night, we saw that the Disney Plus, which is obviously the new streaming part of Disney, thought about, what, if I can do that, I can reach about 35 million memberships, I could also become the CEO of TikTok. So this is really good examples of, obviously this is media, but it touches us all in terms of, okay, our competitors are not just coming from our traditional part, they're coming from all over the place. And so I'm very curious to see how TikTok will do that, buying media companies, maybe opening up stores and stuff like that. Anyway, so what we see here, just to highlight one thing, that it's not just about CX as a such, UX as a such, we really see a focus on the whole partner experience. And whether that's from a B2B perspective or B2C perspective, the whole partner experience is really key. We're not able to just manage the whole journey for our clients from a brand, store, or e-commerce perspective. It's all about embracing what our clients have to face through and make sure that it's all being relevant. So if you ask about, okay, who led the digital transformation? Obviously, maybe you know this image. It might be C, it might be A, it might be B. It's a very interesting part to talk about. Anyway, let me finish this up and hand over to you, Brian.
Thank you so much, Jeroen.
No worries. I will stop share.
Yeah, and then hopefully this will work. So, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Good, thank you very much. So, yeah, so it's great. Jeroen's kind of led quite nicely into this. So my name is Brian. I currently work in Unilever in the retail division within inside Unilever. We have lots and lots and lots of stores all around the world, different kinds of pop-ups. Jeroen mentioned the Dollar Shave Club. There's a lot of brands like that that we do little pop-up stores for, but we also have a lot of permanent stores as well. So you may have seen Ben & Jerry's out there, Grom, which is in the picture there, which is an Italian gelato concept that we have in Europe, the US, and in China. So really what I do is I take the things that Jeroen is talking about, all of these great customer experiences, and then I help teams on the ground bring them actually to life. And then I help them assess whether those experiences are actually working, and then we kind of adjust it and keep going back and tailoring it on this constant evolution, because Jeroen is completely right. The minute you think you've nailed it, you haven't. It's moving so fast, you've got to be in this constant evolution. And right now we're seeing that even quicker. So really what I wanted to focus on today is what can you do now in physical retail mainly with the changes that are going on. And hopefully this will be pragmatic enough for you. So as Jeroen's kind of pointed out, nobody really knows what's going to happen in the future. It's a little bit of a difficult one, but I think we've got to really think about this low touch economy, that's going to be here to stay for a while. People are going to be a little bit nervous of being in crowded spaces for a while. So what I'd like to do is take you through 4 key steps that I think can make your business stronger while you're thinking about that low touch economy and how we can work through it. Please feel free to ask questions. I'll take a little break every so often just to see if there's any questions there and address them as we go on. So the 4 sections that I'd like to kind of just touch today is mainly about your people, the teams within the stores or within your units, or because I think everything now is not just a physical store, but it is about omni-channel now as well, with delivery and just brand building stores as well, which we focus on a lot. And then how you can assess what the new normal is. How can you see where you are versus what the customer is expecting or where the opportunities are? And then how do you make and take advantage of those opportunities that are there, and how do you plan that out? And then how do you try and form a bit of rhythm and routine around what you're doing to enable you to kind of get everything up to speed? Because generally people don't like change, even though we're in this constant change cycle at the moment. So the first section I want to talk about is your people. So what you see here is, this is one of the brand's stores that we did in the US. So this is for a kind of young generation cosmetics brand called St. Ives. It's present in the US and in the UK. And what we did here is we created a mix your own face scrubs and body lotions made from fresh ingredients like limes and lemons, mixed with their kind of bases. And we did that where you could personalize then all of your bottles and everything that you did. That then actually led them to create data from this, where you could go, where they could then take that research and then launch new face scrubs and new body lotions with the most popular things that customers were mixing in store. And they added significant sales in the US markets from doing things like that. So I think there's still going to be a space for retail, even in this changing environment. But it may not be the same way as we remember it. It could be moving more towards this omni-channel where the store is the physical presence for a online back end, so to speak. But I think human interaction is really key. And I think it's going to move even more experiential over the next few years. It was moving that way anyway. I think the Apple stores and things like that several years ago have made the kind of leap. And now everybody is following them into these experiential stores. But the key thing is those experiences need to be genuine and relative to your market. A lot of people are pivoting at the moment, and they may not pivot the right way, and it could come across as not really authentic. So I think it's key that whatever you do, you're really doing it right. And the key to that is about your people. So I think it's important that we start with the people. And right now is a great time to look for people. There's a lot of people who've been displaced due to this situation. It's also a good time to review your current team and think about, is there changes that you want to make within your team? There's a recent comment in Harvard Business Review. It takes 22 months for a business to recover from a bad manager. So if potentially there are some people that you want to change within your business, now is potentially a time to make those changes. Also, some people have had time away from work with this home working, and they may feel that their current role is not what they want to do. They've had time to think, and they may not want to choose to return to their old jobs. Or also their old jobs may not be the same as they used to be. So really what we've got to look at is, how do you hire these great people? How do we find them? How do we train them, and how do we set the expectations? your experience within your store is only as good as your weakest member of staff. And you always need to measure your success of your business as the weakest member of staff. If you have one weak member, and that's the person that serves the customer, that is the experience that customer walks away with. So you've really got to be sure that you have the right fit, and customer facing activity is not right for everybody. So what does your employer branding look like at the moment? Why would somebody want to work there? Are you attracting people genuinely with the true picture of what it's going to be like to work there? What kind of team would they be joining? Will they enjoy working with the people that are already in the business? And do you clearly talk about what the right fit is that you're looking for? And then how do you balance that team? Diversity is so important. I was lucky enough to work for Starbucks for 10 years, and we had this brilliant diversity within our teams, which enabled us to hire a lot of part-timers, which gave us great flexibility of having students during the afternoons and having working mums and stuff in the evenings. It really helped us out with what we were doing. And the old ways won't work anymore. I used to do recruitment days and in-store signage. That's all gone now. Now it's moving towards these digital platforms, web interviews. We're seeing more and more the rise of the kind of video recorded questions that people are being screened by. But key is that you look for where your target candidates would hang out and look at those areas and focus on that. Just a couple of statistics for you. 80% of employees leave because they weren't hired correctly in the first place. So again, that fit wasn't correct. According to a recent survey, 31% of employees quit in the first 6 months for avoidable reasons. So something goes wrong and they just go, okay, this company is not got set up, either they don't get paid correctly or their training is not right or things don't happen. Also, I think this is going to be key moving forward, is flexible working hours and remote working. So companies that before this crisis had a 25% lower employee turnover rate that were already investing in flexi working and remote working. And I think now with what's been going on, a lot more people are used to this working from home. 65% of employees believed that they could find a position offering higher pay. So they weren't leaving because of pay, they were staying because they loved the culture of the organization. So it's really a thing about what is the culture of your organization like, because 65% of people feel they can walk tomorrow and get more money. So they're staying with you because they love what they do. 50% of global companies have an issue with turnover. So this is not a small thing, it's always there. And for more than 2 years, you're looking at around about 30% of an employee's salary is what it takes to replace them. So 10 to 20% of that is just on training, but also then the recruitment costs, the training costs, etc. It adds up to about 30% of someone's salary. So turnover costs you. And it will take about 2 years for someone to match the productivity of a tenured employee. So really looking at this, how we can hold on to people. And I think right now it's going to be key. And in retail, and particularly in fast retail, the turnover rates are even higher. I've seen a statistic about 82% of people that leave within the first 6 months, particularly if you're hiring, a lot of casual part-time workers. So looking at how do we do our onboarding, how do we make it quick and efficient? And there's a lot of great online tools out there, very cost effective, that will enable you to onboard people within hours in some cases. So a lot of jobs are not that complex. But also then, where's the human touch? Where's the regular supervisor check-ins? Do they have a mentor within there? Do they have someone to support them? Understanding that this will be, low touch will be the future. Older people may not be coming out of lockdown quickly. We have new habits that will form after people repeat something 21 times. Also, as mentioned earlier on, social distancing. How are we going to bring that in quickly when we do come out of lockdown? Social distance is going to stay for a while. How can we do it so it doesn't look tacky? So what I want to bring you through is, how do we understand this new normal? And why should we bother setting the new normal? Well, the key thing is it sets expectations for our teams. So the people that work in our stores need to know what they need to do. And what is obvious for one person may not be obvious for another. So we need to assess what our old brand guidelines were and what our new brand guidelines were. And also, you've got to check what's going on in your stores, because what gets checked gets done. And sometimes people believe that their stores are giving one experience, and then the customer feedback comes in and it's very different from what they expect. So there's the old saying, people do what you inspect, not what you expect. Also, this drives results. Jeroen talked about this earlier on, about the bottom line. And really, if people know that someone's coming and giving them feedback, a second pair of eyes coming in, it really drives results. And there's a lot of proven track record between businesses that are in constant growth and those that are constantly giving feedback to their teams and checking their stores regularly. Also, we live in a world of compliance, and it's going to get even worse going forward. So making sure that your stores are compliant is really key. Also, people love feedback. Managers love to hear, how are they doing? What can they do better? People, I believe in the positive people, that everybody wakes up in the morning and they don't think, today I'm going to do a bad job. Everybody wants to do a great job. And really doing these kind of stuff helps people point out things where maybe they had their priorities a little bit skewed. And the other thing is, it builds a balanced scorecard. So it's one thing to look at sales, but it's really key that you're looking at why those sales are going the way they are. What's happening that's driving those KPIs, and how can we fix them, or how can we replicate the things that are going well? So how do we do this? Where do you start? So first thing we got to do is look at compliance. What are the things that we're going to get in trouble for? What are the things that should be happening? Have we got our 1.5 meters or 2 meters marked out? How does it look? Is it just some really tacky hand-drawn piece of paper that someone's just stuck up there? Or is it done in a professional way that's brand appropriate? The basic things, have they switched on the lights? Have they turned the music on? Particularly if we're reactivating stores that have been closed for some time, there may be some maintenance issues that people are not aware of. We may have new people in the stores. How are our brand standards? Are they new compared to what we were doing before? How is our training? We were training everybody to do tasks before. Now this is a new reality. How is that training looking at? Do we have operational manuals that are easy to update? And do it simply. Just start with a pen and paper, get your situation first, and then start looking at digital tools to repeat this going forward. And think about rating. Everybody loves to have a score at the end of these assessments. They want to know how they did and can they beat the score from the next time around. And the key thing is, those pieces that are really important for your brand and the compliance part essentially should have a higher weighting than just those simple little things. But also think about what teams are doing. So if you see something wrong, don't blame the team. I mean, when I go to stores and I see things are not the way I expect them to be, I blame myself for not laying out a clear expectation or not saying to the teams, what should the priority be? So I think leadership is to blame for non-compliance, and looking to understand what is it that made people make the decision to do something different than we thought. And also thinking about what's designed in an office can turn out very, very differently in the field. So this is all about plan, do, check, adjust, and repeat. Constant improvement, constant moving forward. If you don't, you're dead in the water. Everybody else will pass you by if you're standing still right now. It's really this time to move quickly. And then also thinking about, how do we make sure that when you're doing this with multiple units, that you're getting the same standard? If you ask the question to 100 people, what is clean and what is dirty, you're going to get a lot of different answers. So how do you calibrate this? How do you make sure that you have other photographs or clear standards, but then also how do you physically calibrate with these guys? If you're just calibrating 1 in 10, it means that essentially 9 times somebody may be doing something incorrect before they're adjusted. And also, how do you get the data? The data is key. Matching qualitative data with quantitative data is so powerful, and it can really drive massive performance within your business, but also it can make it a great place to work, where you know what's expected of you and you're seeing things getting better all the time. People are listening to you and they're seeing the issues. But also, you can use a lot of third-party assessments. You can use some great software, and there are supports out there. And there's now this rise of the gig economy. So these are some of the companies that I've used in the past that I think are really, really wonderful. Food Alert is a UK-based business that can really help with everything around health and safety and food safety. So when we're doing a lot of pop-up stores or things in the UK and we need to understand simple compliance, they've been really, really helpful. iAuditor is a very simple checklist tool. It's very sophisticated. It's also very cost effective, and it outputs data into a lot of different ways. Romler and BeMyI are this gig economy where they, if you give them a set of questionnaires, they can go out and they can really give you simple feedback using people who get paid to do these short audits. BeMyI is a lot more focused on retail. Romler does a lot of different kinds of businesses. And then the next bit is about action planning. So now we've assessed our stores and we've seen the things that we're not happy with, or the things we'd like to replicate somewhere else. What do we do with it? How do we take this information and move on? So the key thing is identifying the priorities. Where do we start first? What is the stuff that's good to do, but also what is the stuff that's, you know, a bigger task? Also understanding what is the low-hanging fruit that we can give to some of the guys in the store that's really motivational. So who are the right people to do these tasks? And really essentially is, how do we ensure compliance? How do we know that these action plans are actually getting carried out? And there's some great software out there that can help you follow this stuff through with trails on who's done what and how the tasks have been passed off. Really, the thing is start with the key brand priorities. And before anybody leaves a store, there should be an agreed basic plan on who's going to do what, so we can feel that this thing starts day one, with realistic targets for completion and understanding, do the people have control to do this? So can they actually fill this stuff in? Do they have the resources? Is this something that everybody knows it needs to happen, but there just isn't the CapEx available to do it? And also understanding, how common is this? Is this something that's just happening in one store, or is this something that is everywhere? And understanding the root cause. So we can spend a lot of time treating symptoms, whereas actually we should be forgetting about that and treating the root cause straight away. And essentially that we can really move on these things quickly. It's key with all of this stuff that people feel that we're moving forward, that it's not just a guy comes in with a clipboard and a white glove and, you know, checks everything inside the store. I'm also understanding the rhythm and routine of this. How often should we do this? You know, we need to let the teams run the stores. We need to let online business happen. There's only so much feedback that people need. They just need to get on with their jobs as well. So it's understanding what that is, and that will be different for different businesses and different for different types of retailer as well. So really thinking about this is, what is the cycle of excellence that fits your business? If you're an online only business, then it's very different than if you are a brick and mortar retailer. And then within the brick and mortar retailer, if it's a food business, it could be very different from just pure retail. So what is that cycle? Do you have a balanced scorecard? And what I mean by balanced scorecard is, are you seeing where compliance is versus where sales are, and how these things are correlating, so you can really focus in on the key things that will make a difference in your business? How does this get cascaded? So if you have multiple layers of management within your organization, how are those all involved so that everybody is understanding how they're doing as well? And how is this linked to the bottom line? You know, this has to pay for itself. And it's really key that you are delivering on the bottom line every time you're doing this kind of stuff. So I've got an example now on the next slide of a performance cycle for you. This is one that was built for a brand that we operate mainly in France and Spain, called Gelateria Cartador. So really what you're trying to do is drive the perfect store experience, and the perfect store experience drives the brand experience as well in other channels, whether that be supermarket, whether that be online, wherever. If somebody has a bad experience in the store, that's their experience of the brand, and it can really be damaging later on. So the support mechanism for this is really key. So if you are operating the business yourself, there needs to be very clear operational standards laid out in something that somebody can access very quickly and very easily. Also, if you have third-party operators, is there a clear contract on what they can and can't do? And do they understand the key part of the brand? Do you have mobile-friendly e-learning platforms? The day of a big old book that somebody had to train with is gone. Now it needs to be something that somebody can do on their mobile phone, with video, very quick, very easy, but also that you can track the data. So you can see how many people in these stores are trained, because then you can really gauge your customer experience before you even visit the store. If nobody's trained, you can know what to expect when you visit that store. Also, auditing the stores, it helps really support the operators, because sometimes it's just helping people see the trees inside the wood, so that they can really focus on the things that maybe they haven't seen because they've walked past them every day and they've just started to accept things. It really also helps us check that the standards that we want are realistic. Sometimes we want people to do things that are just not possible with the resources that they've got. So really understanding what's realistic is key, and then having structured meetings to discuss this and follow up and make sure that people are seeing the bigger picture. So the cycle for your business, it's different depending on where you are. So weekly meetings, monthly meetings, quarterly and annual meetings, there should be there, but for different levels. Trimesters I've used in the past when I worked for a company called Amrest, which is really great for those longer strategic thought plans. Frontline staff, they should be daily having huddles, looking at things like the daily records book where they're checking the compliance of stuff in there. There should be digital checklists with photographs to help people go through it. Supervisors should be meeting up weekly, looking at the compliance, the state of the building, how is the training of the staff going. And the managers should be looking at things on a monthly basis, the sales planning, team development. Are they planning the turnover that's going to come, that they've got succession plans in place, that if a key member of the team leaves, they've got somebody ready to step up. And then those area managers having that quarterly review with their team, looking at the common issues across their markets, looking at what the priorities are, how is the different support mechanisms working, supply chain and marketing, etc. Do they have access to CapEx where they see golden opportunities? Can they access that? And then the operation leadership, having those 4 monthly reviews of the 3-year plan or whatever plan they're looking at. Where are they against their milestones? What are the patterns that are emerging within the business? And the current toes, which is a swap backwards. So looking at the threats and the opportunities first and looking at where they can go through. And if you are working with a franchise brand, how often are you meeting with your franchisee or your franchisor? So these things are all key. So that was really my few slides. I rattled through to make sure that we have a little bit of time left, because it's kind of 5:30 now. So I think I'm just going to pass over and see if we've got any questions. So does anybody have any questions about the stuff I went through? There's a lot of information there, and I think we'll make the slides available afterwards.
Well, perhaps Jeroen, we like to take the lead so that we could warm up the crowd.
Yeah, of course. So I think a great presentation. I really, really love it, especially looking from your store perspective and coming from the store, managing into this whole digital environment, analytics environment. One big question. So remember when I was store manager, when I was like 20 or whatsoever, feels like an age ago, maybe it is. I got every day, I got feedback from the clients that helped us that specific day. So when I open up the store at 7:30 or 8:30 in the morning, I got specifically the feedback from how clients are, experiencing the store environment. And that was so in the first part, it was so hard to really, get these answers and insights in, but at the same time, we really managed quickly to steer the whole store strategy around that. And my question to you, Brian, is like, coming from a, let's say, deep store retail environment, how do you manage it to organize that with all these other stakeholders from a digital perspective, from a facility perspective, from a finance perspective? How do you ensure that your goals from that, let's say, deeply retail environment are going to be reached with all these roadmaps having in place?
I think it all fits together. So you shouldn't look at any feedback in isolation. I think it's what you're trying to do is understand patterns within your business. So there's different ways of getting this customer feedback. So in the old days, there used to be the good old mystery shopper that would come in and they would have
like
a
wolf,
list of
right?
questions
Yeah.
that the company would give them. And obviously the staff could see them a mile away because they always knew this guy's going to look at this first, then this, then this. So it was always a fake environment. And also we were looking at things that was important for us as a business, not necessarily important for the customer. So I always think a more open questionnaire for a customer is better. But I don't know about you, but I never fill in questionnaires unless I'm getting something. You know, I'm a pretty cheap guy. That's why I moved to the Netherlands. It's a real thing about if I'm getting something, I will give you something. So and it doesn't need to be a big thing. It could just be, I get a cup of coffee. And if I get a cup of coffee, I'll fill in your questionnaire. Great, no problem. I mean, a cup of coffee, we all know it's a very inexpensive thing to provide. But that feedback is really key. But then the feedback you're getting, it may be something like, I don't know, I don't like your toilets. I mean, I'm obsessed about toilets because it's somewhere that customers visit all the time and facility. It's not right in a lot of places. But if you're getting this customer feedback, it's also coming out of your audits as well. And you're seeing a decline in sales. You know, potentially this could also help you go back to finance and say, look, I need to reinvest in my business. And here is the evidence to support that. Because it's really about the combination of qualitative data and quantitative data. I can't say that enough. I think it's what's really transformed our business at the moment is where you're taking things and you're understanding why businesses are behaving the way they are, rather than just looking at the financials. Because the financials is just the start of it. The financials is what happens after you've got everything right or wrong.
I completely agree, but at the same time, following up on my question, and then we'll leave it up to maybe some other people. I completely agree, right? As I said in the introduction, I completely agree on your words. But at the same time, my personal challenge within for clients as well is that everybody faces this urgency to know what clients are thinking, right? So some of them say, okay, I have this NPS. So I sometimes end up in a workshop with all these different streams of the companies, like, yeah, but my reality is my NPS, because from a digital perspective, I always send them emails to ask them, would you refer me to other people? Then, for example, the stores say, yeah, but our reality is sentiment. And then maybe social media says, yeah, but also our social sentiment is about 75%. How do you make sure from your seniority perspective that all these truth of the clients or the consumers or customers or whatsoever combined into one reality?
I think it comes down to having the CRM data that says how many of your customers are coming back. And once you know if they're coming back, can you contact them and find out why they're coming back? Because it's this old truth. You should never measure the success of your business by your sales. You should measure the success of your business by the repeat sales. So really looking at it, what is it that's bringing people back? And it may surprise you. It may not be what you think it is. And it could just be down to the fact you've got awesome stuff. It could just be down to the fact that a product that you didn't think was important has turned out to be the one thing that you've got that nobody else has. So don't assume anything. And I would say, don't listen to your own voice. Just experiment and constantly tweak and measure. Change something, go back and measure it. Has anything changed? And really try and find out what it is. And if you've got something that's working, flog it to death. I mean, if you look at what Starbucks has done and what all these key businesses have done, look at what Apple has done. They got the iPhone, it's a great product, they flogged it to death. You know, just get something, keep it and build your core around that, but stick to your core. I think businesses are in danger at the moment of pivoting too much away from their core and getting into places that they shouldn't get into. And that's happened and ruined businesses in the past. So hopefully that's the right answer. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's not about great answers, it's also about great questions the other way around. But I think it's a great discussion. I really love your presentation. So thank you for that.
Anybody else? Something I've seen which has worked really well as well is in the old days we used to have all these checklists and bits of paper. And now what we do in a lot of our stores is we just get an iPad. And inside the iPad, we just put a lot of questions so that one of the key members of staff comes in the morning and they pick up the iPad, and the iPad just has some quick little checklists, and they just push a tab to say that they've done it or not done it. And it prompts them to take a photograph to kind of say, yes, they have done it, rather than they just go click, 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 click. And it stores all that information in the cloud. So then if anything goes wrong in the store, unfortunately, if a customer has an accident or something more serious goes wrong, you have some due diligence evidence in the store that says this has happened. And yes, we checked that the staircase was safe in the morning. Yes, we checked that the door wasn't damaged. And then if something happened, we can say, yes, unfortunately, it was an accident. So there's a lot of things out there that are very cost effective that you can do that can really simplify your business as well, because not everybody can remember everything.
No, absolutely.
That's another little tip out there.
Yeah, makes sense. Cool.
Okay. It was a very valuable insight. Thank you, Brian and Jeroen, for walking us through. I'm looking at both chats from the webinar as well as YouTube. We have a very quiet crowd, I must say, but if I may have the permission from both, what I can do is we're going to keep the chat open. We're going to keep the emails open. So what I like to encourage the attendees from the webinar as well as YouTube side to send us your questions, and I will redirect them to both of you. Would that be good?
Of course.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great.
And you know, I've kept my information down here as well. If anybody does want to get in touch, if they have any questions on how they can get this started, I'm very happy to give them help.
All right, great. Okay. Sure. And I wish both a great evening, and I look forward to having a good chat with you again, Jeroen, tomorrow.
Absolutely. On to the next. Brian, thank you very much. Really, really useful, very inspiring. Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Bye.
Cool, guys. Good evening. All right.
Bye.